What's going on, guys? It's me. I'm alive. And I'm okay. Well, I'm not really okay, but we're going to get into that. I have received a lot of emails and WhatsApp messages and Twitter messages and DMs asking if I'm okay. Yeah. Things have been better. And I'm going to get into that in today's video, kind of what's been going on with me. Today's video is going to be more podcast style, so feel free to tune off my face or the video, although there will be some maybe images popping up here or there. So watch me if you want. If not, just listen if you want. Be my therapist if you want. Judge me if you want. But today's video, we're going to talk about, what's been going on with me, because the truth is I've been struggling. And if I think about it, it's not really a recent thing. I've been struggling since the pandemic, since moving to Portugal. I don't think I've truly been like myself since moving to Portugal. I haven't had the same energy. I haven't had the same inspiration. I haven't had the same drive. And I'm kind of in the process of trying to figure out why. And also, I've had a pretty big piece of thing happen to me, and I haven't been able to walk. So we'll get into that as well. But I want to kind of get back to the start and kind of walk through this and try to figure this out. And if you catch me looking at my screen and you're watching this video on YouTube or Spotify, it's because I have notes and I want to read them to try to stay on topic, because I tend to get a little bit off topic. But anyway, okay, so since the pandemic, since moving to Portugal, I've kind of been struggling. And I've been thinking a lot about it. And I talk a lot about how travel saved my life. When I was back, just having left high school, 17 years old, I had a 2-year period where at the time I thought I was just being lazy, but in hindsight, I was definitely depressed and just without direction. I had no idea what I wanted in life. I had no idea what to do with myself. And during those 2 years, I kind of just wasted away. I was in kind of not a dark place, but just a heavy place. I kind of felt like I was underwater, if that makes sense. Everything was happening slower than I wanted to. And I just didn't have a purpose. Looking back now, it's so obvious that I had that depression, and it's so obvious what broke that depression, which was me going to travel. I basically took a 4-month time where I decided, hey, let's just be selfish. Let's not worry about what anybody else wants but me. Let's go live my life day to day exactly how I want to be living it and go to Central America. So I headed to Central America, and basically, I had free time, but I had time to do things I wanted to be doing. I could be the person I wanted to be, and it was so liberating. It was so free. I spent time reading and learning and understanding some history, and that travel not only gave me a purpose, but it made me feel like I could be happy with the person I was, and I didn't need to be the person or the character I was my entire youth and adolescence. I could be myself. And it was so liberating, and it was so awesome. And it really did cure my depression. And to be honest, if I look back at it, I think to myself, what would have happened to me if I didn't go on that trip? Would I be stuck in a miserable life that I was unhappy with? Would the depression have carried on for years? Would I have some job I didn't love? Would I be in some job I was terrible at? Before going on this trip, I spent time working in oil field construction, and I was so bad at that I got demoted to this lowest possible position you could be, which was this guy standing over a hole with a pipe in it, watching the backhoe operator drop dirt onto the pipe to make sure a rock doesn't hit the pipe and break it. I would stand there in minus 40-degree weather for 12 to 14 hours a day, just watching a hole in the ground freezing. I can't help but to think if I didn't travel, my life would be that. And that wouldn't be something that fulfilled me or would make me feel happy. So travel saved my life. I have to believe that. So when the pandemic happened, a couple of years ago, at first I was kind of this is great. I can finally get a bit of a break. I'd been running nonstop for about 10 years, and I was exhausted, burning out, struggling to keep up with the demand of the work that I had. I was really succeeding and I was really happy. And I felt like, oh, good, I get a bit of a break, a bit of a vacation. This is going to last a couple weeks. But literally 2 weeks into the pandemic, depression hit me again. And it hit me really hard. Like, I remember there was one point that I started playing video games, which for me is a really big sign that I have depression. If I start looking for that escapism in video games, I need to like start questioning my mental health. I started playing video games for the first time since university. And there was one point that I was so deep into the video games that I think I played for like 24 hours straight with only stopping to eat and use the toilet. And it was 7 days a week. Like, I could have probably had a full like audience of Twitch account followers, the amount of video games I was playing. It was pretty crazy. But it was partly because of I was trying to avoid the fact that I was watching like my mini empire that I built crumble. You know, the whole business that I spent 10 years slaving away at just came crashing down on me. And because of something totally out of my control, and I was bitter. I spent 10 years like fighting for that business. And that business finally became successful like a year before the pandemic. And it just like all of a sudden just came smashing down. And throughout the pandemic, I got more and more bitter about it, especially every time I posted a YouTube video. Every single time I posted a YouTube video, I noticed it was getting less views than the one before. And not a little less, it was like 20,000 views, then 15, then 10, then like 8, 6, 5. I posted one video that had 3,000 views, and I was like, what am I even doing this for if nobody's watching? Like, why? And I just started to get more and more bitter every single time I posted a video. And I think subconsciously I started posting less and less videos because every single time I posted a video, I started to feel like I was a failure, and I started to feel like the business that I had created through YouTube was evaporating, and it was hard. So if you're wondering why I don't post videos now, try not to get emotional. It's deep, because every time I post a video and nobody watches it, it like brings out my imposter syndrome. And as a creator, imposter syndrome is something we all fight all the time. And I will tell you, there's not a single creator that doesn't fight imposter syndrome. And if they don't, it's because they're a narcissist. Imposter syndrome is this feeling that one day you're going to wake up and you're going to realize that none of this was real, and that you were fooling everybody into thinking you were a person worth admiring or worth being inspired by. And so when you have imposter syndrome and then you start to see your empire crumbling, it makes you feel like, oh shit, I am an imposter. It's crumbling for a reason. And that was really, really tough. And like my 18-year-old self, I kind of retreated to the basement, something I hadn't done since I was 18. And I just hid away for an entire year, occasionally popping up like a groundhog to see if it was all over, and occasionally trying to build some sort of project to push my way out of it. Through that pandemic, a couple things saved me. The first thing was starting my coffee shop business. Having the coffee shop business hasn't been a financially good decision for me. It's cost me money. It hasn't made me a single penny, but it saved my life in the same way travel did. When I was in that pandemic, building something and trying to create something, it made me want to get up again. Gave me something to work for. And to be honest, the same way that travel did, it gave me something to learn. It gave me something to build. And I realized I'm a builder. I constantly need to be building something to be happy. And it kind of made me realize when I'm in depression, I need to work on building something. So the coffee shop business definitely hurt my bank account, but it helped my mental health. But the other thing that really saved me was a sport called paddle. And if you guys don't know paddle, it's the fastest growing sport in Europe, and it's probably neck and neck as the fastest growing sport in the world with pickleball. In Europe, paddle is, especially in Southern Europe, Portugal and Spain, it's a lifestyle paddle. And it is incredible. And I was like dragged out of my basement one time to go try to play paddle. And I played one time and I was hooked. I was like, this sport is what I've always dreamed of playing. This is so much fun. And for me, it was like another part of the medicine that I needed to heal myself after the pandemic. So you have coffee, you have paddle, and you have travel. And for me, paddle was kind of like the medicine I needed for my own mental health. The coffee shop business was great, but it kind of like, it had me in tunnel vision. Paddle was like the medicine that you need that also helps you grow, if you will. It was like the ibuprofen you need. Paddle not only got me outside, fresh air is something I definitely need, but it also got me like socializing with people. You might not know this, but I'm an extreme introvert. I can be totally fine staying in a room and not talking to anybody for weeks on end, but that's not good for my mental health. I also do not get energy from being out and making friends. That drains me. When I'm out meeting new people, it stresses me out and I get home exhausted. So paddle was kind of a way that I could meet people naturally. And I ended up building a friends group because of paddle. And I ended up starting to really just love this sport. I became a bit obsessed, to be honest. I started playing like 2 or 3 times a week. And to be honest, I think I was getting pretty good. Like, here's some footage of me playing last week. I'm kidding. That's Augustin Tapia, probably the greatest player in history. But I was starting to get to a pretty advanced level. I was playing in some tournaments, and yeah, it was like I was really finding like this balance in my life coming back, and I was starting to get excited. I got to the point that I started thinking I was going to make a paddle YouTube channel as well, and then I could be posting all these things, and I was starting to feel really excited about where my life was going and the direction I was going. I kind of had like this balance that I've been looking for my whole life of I have a business, a coffee business that's starting to grow and I can kind of hand off to other people and, you know, empower other people. I've got my travel life coming back, and I've got this sport that I'm really getting good at, and it's helping me with my personal growth. But one day, a series of really bad events led me to wearing hospital blues. I had like a rule, which was also a really important rule, that I wouldn't play paddle more than once a day and more than 4 times a week. Because I didn't want it to take away from my photography business or coffee business. I didn't want to just be playing paddle and like a retired person all day. So I had this rule. Then one morning, I got a message from a friend who said, hey, I've got a game at 9 in the morning today. One of the guys dropped out. We desperately need a fill-in. Can you fill in? But I was already scheduled to play in the afternoon. So I told him, I don't think I can. But 15 minutes later, he was like, come on, man, I'm desperate. Come on, man, I'm desperate. And then he told me, hey, these are the guys I'm playing with. The guys he was playing with were like a step above where I am, which is kind of fun. Because in paddle, there's a little bit of gatekeeping that goes on. It's hard to get games with advanced people unless they've played with you before. So it was like, great, here's an opportunity to play a really high-level game. I'm going to go in and break my rule. So I show up, start playing, game's going really well. We're like barely into the game. The glass is kind of wet on the side. So paddle's kind of like tennis and racquetball combined. Let's put it that way. So there's like this glass cage. The guy, my friend, who I was playing against, lobs a ball that goes way up, bounces on my side, and then it looks like it's going to go over the side glass. If the ball goes over the side glass and lands on the other side, it's a point for them. So I do what I I've tried to do about dozens of times, sometimes successfully, which is jump at the side glass and try to knock the ball back into play before it goes over the glass, and stepping on the glass to give myself some support. But unfortunately, the glass, because of some condensation, was quite wet, and my right leg slipped. And basically, when I landed awkwardly on my right leg with all of the weight and pressure of my body right on my knee, and it snapped the wrong way. Immediately, I heard my knee crack, I heard it pop, and there was multiple cracks and pops. And if you've ever played sports, you know cracks and pops are bad. That usually means that you've ruptured something. So I knew it was bad right away, and I screamed, and it was like violently painful. Like, it's one of those things that it's really interesting, and I'm not sure if you guys know this. Pain is something that we can remember something hurts, but we can't remember the actual feeling of pain. And I think it's a way of protecting ourselves, or our brain protects ourselves. But I was in so much pain, and I remember that I was like, I almost threw up. In fact, I was pretty close to throwing up. That's how much pain I was in. And somehow, probably, what do they call it? Shock. I managed to get myself up, walk to my car, drive my car to the hospital, which in hindsight was the stupidest thing ever. But if I'm being honest, I remembered when I was filling out my insurance form that there was an option to include insurance or not, and I chose not, and I didn't want to have to pay the ambulance bill. The things you think about when you're in shock. Anyway, so I go to the hospital, and the doctor goes, "Oh, I don't think it's that bad. I think you just cracked your meniscus. That's a pretty easy surgery. They can either repair it or they can remove it. If they repair it, it's a couple months recovery. If they remove it, it's like a month." And I was like, okay, that's great. He said, "I'm going to send you to an MRI just in case." And I went and had that MRI. And if you've ever had an MRI, you know it's kind of stressful. Like, you can't move at all. But then there's all these crazy sounds going on. And yeah, I have like health anxiety. And so having an injury on my body is the worst thing that I can feel. It's not fun at all. So I got the MRI results immediately on a disc, but of course I don't know how to read an MRI result. So I had to wait for 2 weeks until their, like, I guess, radiologist came in with the report. And when I got the report said a fully ruptured ACL, completely ruptured, tears in both my MCL and LCL, breaks on both sides of my meniscus, and a small bone break. So I went back to the clinic, made some calls, got an appointment with the surgeon, but that appointment was over a month away. Luckily at home, a friend from Lisbon wrote to me and said that his wife had recently had a surgery. The doctor that did the knee replacement is like the best in Portugal, and highly recommended that person. I did a little bit of research, found that this is probably the best knee surgeon in all of Portugal, one of the best in Europe. And I sent an email. The surgeon said that they had an open surgery date for the 9th of September, which was like 2 weeks away. And I was stoked. So I went in to the appointment on the 2nd of September for a pre-surgery appointment. And unfortunately, the doctor saw my leg and said that he couldn't operate. He said I had a massive lesion in my leg. I could only straighten it to about 25 degrees. It was just basically totally seized up. If you can imagine your leg like my bicep, it was like I was flexing my bicep and I couldn't unflex it. So my leg was kind of just totally seized. And so he told me I needed to do a couple weeks of physio to be able to the point that they could operate. And even then, it wasn't really a guarantee. I would have to really do well in my physiotherapy to get to a point that the operation could happen. So they booked me for an operation on the 9th of October, which would now be kind of 2 months since I had my original injury. And those 2 months were really, really tough. I was left without travel. I was left without paddle. And I was kind of worried that I would never be the same. And I had this like fear of the depression coming back. Like, I can't do two of the things that keep me from being depressed. So am I going to be depressed? And I had like this fear on my mind of, am I going to be depressed? And I kept going through these scenarios of, what if I can't walk again? What if I can never travel again? What if I die in the surgery? What if this is the final nail in the coffin of my travel career? What do I do? Like, what is my life? What do I do? And I just could not shake this idea. What if I didn't go to paddle that morning? What if I followed my rules? What if my friend didn't hit that lob? What if I didn't jump up the glass? I would be traveling. I'd be in Mongolia. I would be in Namibia and Botswana. Instead, I'm sitting at home, staring at my leg and unable to put weight on it. It was really, really brutal. But thankfully, through all those things, I had lots of support this time. I had so much support. My girlfriend is so caring and so kind, and she's just been incredible at keeping me sane, keeping me healthy, taking care of me. And my dog, Cody, has just saved my life again. He forces me to go outside because he needs to go on walks. He drags me out for walks. If I'm being too lazy, he barks at me and tells me he wants to play. And that kind of wakes me up a little bit. And the coolest thing about Cody is his favorite place is the paddle courts. So he loves to go for walks over to the paddle courts and watch people playing paddle. I guess because he likes seeing the ball fly around. And maybe the turf is fun to run on. And I'd be lying if the first time I went to the paddle courts after the injury and finding out that I was going to be like in need of like a year recovery time, that I didn't watch for a while and then leave and just start crying like a baby for like 5 minutes outside. But going to watch has been therapeutic, and going and seeing that, you know, that world isn't leaving has been very therapeutic. And honestly, having a dog has saved me from depression this time. It's been a really great thing. We got Cody, our dog, because we thought it would help my girlfriend because she kind of was missing some companionship when I was away. And then in the reality, Cody has been what I needed. It's just been so special. I want to talk quickly about the fear of depression and kind of how it can paralyze you. And the thing that I don't think people know about depression that have never experienced is it's weird. It's like a weight that holds you down, but you also don't want to take it off. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's a weight that you feel in your shoulders that also somehow gives you comfort because you feel like if you get outside, you're going to get hurt or it's going to get worse. Like, I'll give you this example. When you're depressed, you might have this stress that you owe like $2,000 as a bill. You owe your rent. Your rent's $2,000 and you owe your rent. And you have this stress on your mind. I need to pay my rent. I need to pay my rent. And all you need to do to remove the stress is to pay the freaking bill. But with depression, you have this like thing that you are like, I don't really want to pay it. You might even have the $2,000 in your bank account, easy to pay, and you could pay that $2,000 and remove this stress from your shoulders, but you just don't. There's something stopping you. It's like it almost feels like you're choosing depression. And I can also kind of relate this to that stress of my YouTube videos. I feel this stress with my YouTube videos. And I feel like when I post the YouTube videos, it releases some of my stress. I can do them, I can edit them, I can post them, and I know that when I post them, it's going to lift some of the stress from my shoulders, but it's like I choose the burden, and I don't know why. And I guess that's a question for my therapist, but you often, under depression, do things that from the outside looking in can make it look like you're choosing depression. And I guess you're kind of probably wondering how the surgery went. It went well. The surgery itself went really well. The physio was freaking hard. but surgery went really well. I've had now the surgery for 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks since I had the surgery now, and I'm on crutches. I'm unable to put too much weight on my foot because I have the meniscus breaks and there's stitches in there. But overall, it's healing and I'm starting to feel better. The surgery went well, but before the surgery, I found out that I have to pay because I'm an idiot. I'm an honest idiot. Portugal has a hybrid healthcare system. And what that means is that there's both a private healthcare system and a public healthcare system. And every resident is entitled to the public healthcare system. That's free. No matter what you need, that's free. Just for things like non-essential things, like a knee injury, you need to go on a waiting list and you don't get to choose your doctor and things like that. And if I'm being honest, the public healthcare in Portugal sucks. To have access to the private system, which is really good, you need to have an insurance that covers that. I have insurance. My insurance is like $1,000 per year. Actually, I think it's quite a bit less than that. It's about $800 a year. And I do still have to pay a little bit if I decide to go to the private clinic. For example, my consultation and MRI, the day that I did that, my bill came to 70 euros. So there's a cap on what they can charge you, but they still can charge you a little bit and the rest is covered by your insurance. As a Canadian, I kind of feel weird about that like hybrid system. It's like, I kind of imagine, I imagine how if we treated healthcare like we treat any other business. Like, could you imagine if you walked into one of my coffee shops and there was a massive line, like let's call it 50 people in line for coffee. And somebody at the back of the line went to the front of the line and had a $100 bill and said, I'm going to give you $100 for a coffee if I can skip the line. And the coffee shop was like, cool, let's take that. And all these people in the line would be like, this is garbage. Like, what a jerk. And also, how are you accepting this? And it's kind of how I feel with like healthcare is if you pay more to be able to skip the line, everybody else that's in the line that can't afford the $100 actually has to wait longer because now, there's only so many doctors and the people that cut the line make the line slower. And in a hybrid system, I think it's even more true because why would a doctor want to work at the public clinic when they can work at the private for much more? So then the line at the public becomes even longer and slower, and it's not a great situation. This would never happen in my coffee shop because as a person who believes a little bit in socialism, I would say to that person at the front of the line, absolutely, you can pay $100 for your coffee. And I would take that $100 for that person's coffee. And then the next bunch of people in line, I would give them free coffee. And so that guy would be paying for them. I don't know. That's how it works in my head in a smart way. And maybe I just solved healthcare. No, I didn't, because it still has a wait line problem. Anyway, it feels weird to cut the line. But at the same time, I need to cut the line because of many reasons. One, I need to get back to work. And two, like, I want to be able to choose my doctor. I want to be able to trust my doctor. And I'm willing to pay more to have that ability to choose my doctor for something like this, for something elective. But what I did find out, which is what cost me the money, isn't actually the healthcare insurance thing. What cost me money is when I filled out my insurance forms, I wrote that I hurt myself playing paddle. What I didn't know was that paddle, surfing, skateboarding, and a couple other things aren't included in the insurance coverage that I had. And as a result, my insurance didn't cover it, which sucks. And even my physiotherapist after said, you told them you hurt yourself playing paddle? Just tell them you hurt yourself walking on the beach or you tripped going for a jog. And I was like, I couldn't lie. Like, I can't commit insurance fraud. I don't have that capability. If I would have known, though, that just a simple white lie would have saved me the money, maybe I would have lied. I don't know. I can't admit to that on camera. Would you have lied? Answer me in the comments. If you could have saved the money by telling them you hurt by tripping and falling, walking your dog, or playing paddle, would you have done it? Anyway, so the surgery ended up costing me 12,000 euros. So it's not the end of the world. It's not great. It cost me 4 months of work and $12,000. So it was a very, very expensive jump at a ball, at paddle, and one I really, really regret. But I'm also very glad that the injury happened here in Portugal, where a major surgery like that can cost only 12,000 rather than much more in places like the US or, I don't know, probably most places, to be honest. 12,000 feels okay. It doesn't feel like an overpay. So with the surgery, basically they took a piece of my hamstring tendon, they peeled it off, I guess, and they used that to make my new ACL. Then they also did some other things with my MCL and LCL. They stitched the meniscus. In total, I have 8 holes in me or 7 holes in me. And I'm going to do, there's a trigger warning. There's going to be some pictures now for those watching the video of the stitches and the cuts. I don't think it's as bad as you imagine. 10, 15 years ago, they would have sliced your leg all the way open and just opened it all up. It's much better now. So it doesn't look as bad as you might think. But yeah, lots of staples, lots of stitches. When they did the surgery, they gave me a spinal epidural. And I'm an idiot as well because I never asked about how the surgery was going to happen. So basically they wheeled me into this room. The guy goes, we're going to put a needle in your back. It's going to hurt a little bit. Then you're not going to feel anything from your legs down, and then you're going to have the surgery. And I was like, wait, I'm going to be awake for this? He was like, yeah. I was like, no. I was like, no. You need to put me to sleep. Like, I do not want to be awake for this. Could you imagine the stress? Like, I have health anxiety, and I would be awake without being able to feel my legs as these guys are doing surgery on me? No way. Like, I'm going to sleep. So I begged him to put me to sleep, and I didn't really have to beg because he was like, oh, yeah, we'll just put you to sleep. So I wake up a couple hours later, not having any idea what time it is. I can't feel anything from my waist down still. And it was really, really, really awkward. You wake up in a room and there's other people around. You can't feel your legs. You don't know if you need to pee because you can't feel anything in that area. There's nurses around checking you, trying to get your legs to wake up a little bit. And eventually they wheeled me into my own private room. And I tell you, the nurses are absolute saints. They are, if you're a nurse out there, like, wow, you are the best people. It's incredible what you guys do. And I feel so grateful to have woken up with the support of nurses. I was in my hospital room privately, and I basically couldn't walk, so I needed a nurse eventually, once I could start feeling things down there, to walk me to the toilet, sit me down on the toilet, and then be able to use the toilet. It's just such a humbling experience, like being that dependent on other people. You could feel as invincible as I have in my life and as powerful as I have in my life. And to go through that, it makes you feel like, it makes you humble. It really humbles you in the most positive way. I spent 2 nights in the hospital. Basically, they kind of just kept checking in on me and drugging me up, giving me medicine in my IV line, and just making sure everything was okay. And then after those 2 days, I walked with my crutches without weight with this giant cast on my leg about 15 minutes down the road to another hotel. And then I spent 4 nights at that hotel just to kind of like relax and be close to a hospital in case I needed it. I have the go-ahead to start traveling a month from now. So that's like mid-November. And I'm so freaking excited to get out. But I'm also like a little bit nervous. because it's hard. My leg doesn't really work yet properly, and I need to do a lot of physio, and it feels like exciting to be able to get out there again, but it also feels a little bit overwhelming. Like, how am I going to carry my backpack if I need or how am I going to carry my camera if I need to have a crutch in one hand for a couple weeks? Or will I be able to carry my heavy backpack on my back with my knee still healing? There's a lot of things that just feel a little bit overwhelming right now. But I am excited to be able to at least just get back out. And maybe it starts with, one camera, one lens, and no tripods and things like that. And then I build up. So I'm excited to get traveling again. I have my next trip that I've been okayed to go to is Japan, which is a month from now. Although I'm still not 100% sure I'm actually going to be able to go to Japan, just because I don't think it's best for me long-term, maybe. So I'm still questioning that. And then the next trip that I'm definitely able to go on is in January to Uganda, which I'm so excited for. And it feels like that walk up to see the gorillas, the hike, is going to feel like my redemption story, my I'm back moment. And I do feel like I'm back. I do feel like I'm back and ready to share with you guys. I'm back and ready to commit to this relationship with YouTube again. I feel like this imposter syndrome I was feeling is done, because now I don't feel like I have anywhere down to go. I feel like it's only up from here. It's like I can start building again, maybe. So I know that I've been over-promising and under-delivering on this channel for ages, so I want to under-promise and over-deliver moving forward. But I am going to try my best to bring you guys into my life more, and that might not be vlogs, that might not be travel videos. It might be a combination of podcasts, of live videos of me just talking from the coast somewhere. I really want to try to build this relationship between us again. And so I really want to say thank you for the support of this community. And I really want to get back to a place where this relationship is healthy again, and one that starts empowering me again like it used to, and hopefully starts empowering you guys as well like it used to. This relationship used to be such a beautiful symbiotic relationship between, growth and growth, and I want to get back there. And if that growth is a personal thing rather than a photography thing, that's cool. So if you want to watch those videos, cool. If you want to watch the photography videos, cool. And in general, thank you for the support. And thank you for letting me share a little bit of my personal life again. You guys are the best. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it. So I do have videos that are already mostly edited from South Georgia and Antarctica. And I think that's probably what's going to come soon. So I hope to see you guys there. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.